Lost Girl Therapy, where we work on getting you back to you. Today, let's talk about attachment, specifically anxious and avoidant partnerships. So, in an anxious partnership, when you are paired with an avoidant, things get a little dicey. And it's mainly because avoidants become hyper independent and they use logic to reason their way out of partnership when they feel unsure of how to engage with an anxious person. Now, anxious and avoidance actually attract each other because there is this sense of, I want something, that person looks safe to me, and I want to engage. But the difficulty with anxious and avoidant is that every time an avoidant begins to pull away or they elicit a higher level of independence, the anxious person gets triggered. And the reason that an anxious person will begin to ramp up anxious tendencies, like wanting to text more, wanting to engage more, wanting to plan more dates, questioning the status of the relationship, is because they don't feel a level of secureness and safety within the interpersonal dynamic. Now, the way to begin challenging it, or the way to begin moving from an anxious avoidant attachment into secure attachment, is to start paying attention, if you are the anxious side of this equation, to what you're holding in your body. Your body is your best indicator of when you're going to feel unsure or unsteady. Pay attention to where you're holding tension, what thoughts kind of send you down the anxious spiral. And I'm not saying this has anything to do with taking the avoidant out of the equation, because they obviously play a role. But in anxious avoidant, anxious really has the majority of the work to do because they have more outward tendencies of reactivity. So for an avoidant, when they get triggered, they're going to step away from the dynamic. They're simply just going to start removing themselves. They might even ghost. They're just going to start to pull away in a way that leaves the anxious person feeling really unsteady and unsure. So for an anxious person, we then get that waterfall effect of, oh my God, I need to ramp up. I need to rebuild safety, and I need to do it right now because I simply cannot tolerate the feelings of discomfort within me. And this is where we end up in trouble. We start to ramp up the anxious tendencies. We begin to seek validation outside of ourselves. We literally step away from ourselves in order to feel safe. But when you stop for a moment and you ask yourself, how do I build safety within myself? That is where you can start to heal. The biggest mistake that anxious people make, myself included, is that we go and we seek validation from others to tell us what to do and how to navigate the fixing of the anxious avoidant dynamic. So instead of doing that, go back to the basics. Go back to asking yourself, what makes me feel safe, calm, content, regardless of my partner? Once you start reestablishing those habits, then you can move into the space of asking yourself, am I receiving what I need in a relationship with my current partner? And if the answer is no, it then becomes a mutual conversation about how you both can have your needs met. But before you ask for needs to be met, before you begin to challenge each other to say, how do we change our relationship, you have to go back to building a sense of safety, calmness, and contentment within yourself.